Hey everybody, this is Townsend. Thank you so much for tuning in. The goal of this podcast is to cover a vast variety of topics regarding mental health, struggles, share people's stories, and hopefully remind you that you're not alone. I hope you enjoy. I'm super excited to have Audra on here. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but for everybody that's logging on, we're going to be talking about young onset dementia or early onset Alzheimer's. It's actually known a bunch of different ways, but I noticed that you call it young onset dementia or Alzheimer's, which I like as well. But let's go ahead and hop in. So let's start with, who is Audra and why is this topic so personal to you?
So I'm Audra, I'm 31. I live in Baltimore, like we talked about, born and raised in Maryland. And this topic is very close to my heart because my mom was diagnosed in 2018 at the age of 56. So
did anybody else in your family have a dementia diagnosis, or is this the first one?
like I would say my mom's grandma had dementia towards the end of her life, but nothing that's like early onset. So nothing that they said would run in the family or anything like that.
Is there something you can get tested for, or is it just kind of up in the air?
Yeah, so we've talked about it, and there is a genetic test that you can take. Since we were told that it wasn't genetic or familial, none of us have gone that route yet. I know I've talked to some people on TikTok actually that have gone that route, but yeah, that's a tough thing to decide.
Hey there. Thank you so much for tuning in to You're Not Alone with Townsend. If you're enjoying these live streams and podcasts and want to see them continue, head over to patreon.com/townsendtmusic. Your support means that the research and time and effort that goes into each one of these episodes can continue, and we can reach out to more guests and do more awesome things in 2022. All right, back to the conversation.
It's kind of like knowing your last day. Would you want to know or would you not? I don't.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty of life, is like not knowing when your last day is going to be. You know, if you know, then you can plan everything out. I actually asked my mom if she knew this was coming, would she change anything in her life, like right when she was diagnosed, and she said she wouldn't. So that's something that has stuck with me, I would say, and that, like, I don't think I would get tested if I thought that it was genetic.
It's kind of, the diagnosis requires evaluation and testing. So I did full-time speech language therapy for about 9 years, 10 years. I still do it on the side as well. And dementia is something I run across all the time. So a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I think I have dementia. And I feel like that term is used so loosely, but to actually have a diagnosis, you have to have evaluation, you have to have testing, and some memory difficulties are totally normal. They say that your memory starts to decline at like 30 years old or something crazy, which makes me feel better because I go into the kitchen and I don't remember why I was there. And I'm like, I'm in that's what most people do. But so dementia, just for people that don't know, it's actually like a structural abnormality in your brain tissue. So you start to notice trouble with memory, problem solving, the simple everyday task. And there are a ton of different types. They've got Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Lewy body, Huntington's, and those are just to name a few of them. So what is your mom? What is her actual diagnosis?
So it's dementia, or I guess it's dementia with Alzheimer's. When she was first diagnosed, it was like dementia, and at that time we didn't really understand the difference between the two. And my stepdad had explained it to me as dementia is like an umbrella, and Alzheimer's, it could be Alzheimer's or it could be something else. But they did I guess I did a CAT scan or whatever it was on her brain, and you could see the plaques on her brain that are like the same as Alzheimer's. So it's basically the amyloid plaques are overgrowing, and that's what creates the, miscommunication.
Look at you sounding all scientific. I love it. I love it. Yeah,
I've tried.
I guess with all your posts. So for people that don't know who Audra is, I actually got to see her story on TikTok. So I follow all these stories. I love to get to know people through social media. I think it's just so, so cool. That's where I've gotten a lot of my stories to share. And a lot of people told me to follow her. So I found her on there. She talks about her mom, and you've actually gotten a ton of I guess, attention for sharing your mom's story. So that is so cool that more people are becoming more aware.
Yeah, I mean, when I did my first TikTok, I was like, I'm just going to see what happens. And everybody was so loving, and I saw so many people be like, my mom just got diagnosed, my dad's diagnosed, I don't know anybody that's this age, thank you for sharing. And it just keeps coming, and I really didn't think it would be like that at all. I just was like, I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens. And it's really taken off. I mean, it's wild to see that there's that many people out there, because when my mom was diagnosed, I was like, I don't know one person that even understands, and there's thousands of people on TikTok just like, I get it.
I love it. And that's what this You're Not Alone project is for. Just, I want my people to know you as well. So if they have any questions, they can reach out to you, they can reach out to me. Just, we're all connected. The world is much smaller than you think it might be. But all right, so what makes dementia early? So, we keep saying early onset dementia, early onset Alzheimer's. How did she get that early diagnosis?
So the early or the young is basically because she was diagnosed under the age of 65. So people get confused when they say early onset versus early stage. People tend to think when you're saying early onset that it's, new Alzheimer's, or they're not that far along in the disease. So we like to call it young onset because we think it kind of defines it more. It's all based on the age that she was diagnosed. So since she was diagnosed at 56.
When and how did you first notice something kind of being off with your mom?
So I would say my first tell would be about 2 years before she was diagnosed. So in 2016, I was actually living in Florida at the time, and I was moving, and she was going to come down and help me out to move and get me settled and everything. And she came down for the weekend, and she was so high anxiety and just not herself. And I was like, something's going on. So I know I've said that on TikTok a lot. It's the personality change. I was super outgoing, very bubbly, just a go-getter, and then all of a sudden when things changed, she just was just very reliant on everybody else and didn't have any confidence. And she just lost a lot of her personality, I would say. I mean, it's still there, definitely. You can see it in some of the videos, she's still her crazy self, but she was very timid at the beginning, when it first started. Really, I
wonder if it was her noticing and trying to hide it, or if it was just making her just, those not being able to communicate with her brain cells and all that, making her anxious. I wonder if she was trying to hide it from you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if she was necessarily trying to hide it, but I think she didn't know what was going on, and it scared her. So she was very unsure about things. Not to say we were lucky, but my mom stopped driving on her own. We didn't have to deal with taking keys and things like that. Once she knew something was wrong and she got scared enough, she called it off for herself. She's like, I can't do it anymore. I've had conversations with my stepdad about the conversations that he had with her during the diagnosis, and now, they were going to be in it together and everything. And so she was still aware, definitely. I mean, even now she still makes comments about, my thing or whatever. So she still knows what's going on to an extent, just not all the time.
Crazy. So before all of this happened, had you even heard of this diagnosis? Did you know it was a thing?
So I knew, I mean, as is everybody, I knew about dementia and Alzheimer's. I definitely thought it was an old person's disease. I was always scared that it would happen to somebody that I loved. I never wanted to see it. I couldn't imagine somebody forgetting who I was. But when my mom was diagnosed, I had no idea it could happen at that age. I was just so shocked. I was like, how can it be how can that happen to somebody that young, especially since it never ran in our family. So we never saw it. It wasn't something that we've seen happen before. So I think we were all kind of in shock. I can only
imagine how terrifying that is. Absolutely. Especially like I talked about, I do therapy. Dementia was something I worked with all the time. So I had to do a lot of counseling with families. And even when you're 90 and you have that diagnosis, it's still just so heartbreaking because it's the awareness, it's the family, it's counseling that, the personality is going to change. They may get super anxious. Some of them get super paranoid. So I can't even fathom having that conversation with a 50-something-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just knowing what's to come, but not really knowing too, like you just said, you don't know how it's going to end or how it's going to go, but knowing that everything's about to really change, and it's a long time, I mean, it's not long enough to have my mom, I'd rather have my mom, but it could be 10 years of this, and that's a long time to just sit there and sit back and watch this happen, and each stage is different and every day is different and every mood is different. It's ever changing. So to be around it, it's pretty wild. And, my stepdad, I know he's on here. I saw him, he's a saint. I don't know how he does it all the time. He lives and breathes it. And he's the best thing that she's ever had. So
I've met some amazing, amazing people in here, and I'm convinced that there are saints here on earth, and I'm sure he is one of them. So does he still work full time?
Yeah, so he's a real estate agent. That's how they met. So he is not working as much as he was working prior to the diagnosis, but he's starting to try to work a little more now, and just try to, you know, sell more properties and be more involved. So he's doing his best. I mean, real estate's tough because, you know, it comes and goes, and it could be on a weekend, or it could be, you know, whenever it is. I mean, he can make his own schedule to an extent, but not all the time. So yeah, it's been okay so far, but it's getting to the point where like she needs assistance more.
Is she at the point where she needs 24/7 care? Is she able to stay home for a little bit by herself? How's that working out for you guys?
Yeah, right now she needs to be eyes on her 24/7. I mean, when I stay there overnight, I don't necessarily sleep in the same room as her, but like she needs assistance with, I mean, not that she's gonna do anything bad. She just wanders, and you know, you're just scared she's gonna fall or pick up something that shouldn't be picking up, or just walk out the door. So I mean, she's just wandering a lot, and she needs somebody there.
I've heard of a lot of people, because when you get dementia or anything like that, it's almost a curse when you're really healthy physically, because you could just get up and go. And so that's one thing that's kind of nice when you're 90s. I mean, you're in a wheelchair, so you can't just get up and walk out the door, but you have to think about being in your 50s. She's up and running around. So you just run out the back door. Have y'all put like alarms or anything, or thought about?
So we have cameras right now in some of the rooms. I don't think there's alarms yet, but like my stepdad just put up gates the other day to stop her from going up and down the stairs, because she's getting into going up and down the stairs all the time, and while we're trying to work, it makes it difficult. But yeah, I mean, we're not to the point where she's necessarily going out the door. She has trouble opening the door when it's locked, so fingers crossed that stays that way. But yeah, I mean, she's still pretty healthy, and that's what they say about the younger onset, is that it's the purest form of dementia, because they don't have any other health problems. So that's what's really gonna deteriorate them in the end. Like if you're older and you've had cancer and the dementia kicks in, or you just, you know, whatever, like this is the purest form, and this is probably what's gonna, you know.
I can't imagine that's a tough diagnosis for the person, and like I said, everybody around. Yeah. So I know you're a saint as well. The videos that I've seen, it's just so amazing to see you still have her involved. You still sing songs for her. You guys, she loves the Matchbox 20 people, so you guys get them to sing for her. I love it. So there is no cure, right? But what are some things, like you talked about those moments of just really high anxiety or lots of confusion? What have you found that kind of helped the most during those moments?
Well, definitely the music. So you touched on that. If she's having a tough day, or she's like lost in her own thoughts, put on some Rob Thomas or some Train or something from like that era, where she can hum along and be happy for a little bit at least. The other thing we like to do is hang out with her dog Cookie. She loves Cookie. It's her best friend. Cookie can do no wrong. But it's just mostly redirecting, right? So I've learned that, you know, if she's upset, or if she's thinking about something, or just talking about something that's like nonsense, just trying to think about or tell her something that will make her happy. Like, oh, where's Cookie? Cookie wants you. Or, oh, let's go listen to music. Or let's just like change the train of thought. Like I've learned that that's the best way to get around those situations or scenarios. I've also learned that like living her truth, that's her truth that she lives, whether it makes sense or not to us. Like if she's like, right now she's saying she goes to the water all the time, like I need to go get the water, I need to go down to the water, like, and it makes zero sense, but to her it means something. So you're just like, okay, like sure, let's go down to the water, you know, just to live her truth for like that moment, instead of being like, no, you don't know what you're talking about, or no, that's not right. That just fires it up more. So it's hard to live in that truth, especially like for Scott all the time, because it's nonsense, but it helps us just kind of get through the day and trying to get her on to the next thing, you know. So that's what I've learned recently, because she does babble a lot more, and it doesn't really make any sense anymore. So you just kind of nod and be like, okay, cool.
Cool. Good story. I do that throughout the day with people that do make sense. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Good story. That was a 30-minute story. I got things to do.
Exactly.
No, so funny thing. Okay, so with doing therapy, there was actually not that long ago, they had a lot of research that said when people with dementia would talk about nonsense things, you were supposed to correct them. So let's say they think they're going down to the water, you were supposed to redirect, like make it more correct. So be like, there is no water, you're in the nursing home, you didn't go down to the water, blah, blah, blah. Well, they have found with time, and again, here just recently, they found a lot more research that it's much more beneficial just to go along with their story. It actually makes them much less anxious. And like you said, it kind of just keeps them calm in that moment. So yeah, if she talks about going down to the water, they have found it's much more beneficial to be like, oh, okay, the water, well, tell me about it, blah, 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 and just going along with their truth. I think you worded it perfectly. Just that is their world. There is no reason to sit there and argue with them. It's just going to make both your heads spin. So just kind of going along with it and making her happy in the time being. So yeah, good job with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about keeping the emotions level, you know, so whatever you can do to keep it streamlined instead of like really high and really low, like that's what makes your day good or bad. If it's just a level day, then you're winning. And just saying, okay, we're going to the water, we'll go to the water, like, or I'm glad you went to the water, just, you know, just agreeing. And she's like, okay, good, I'm glad, like, I'm happy we're doing that. And, you know, then it's the next
one
subject.
Time I worked with a lady, she's probably 85 or something. She had pretty bad dementia. And we were in the nursing home. She was in what we call the memory unit. So the doors were locked because she could wander as well. And she was dead set on, she was in line to vote. There is no one around. Okay. There is no line. There are no people, but she was in line to vote. And so she had pulled a chair up. She was sitting in the hallway, and she was getting mad because a lot of the staff members were, you know, trying to correct her. You're not voting. This is not blah, blah, blah. They're trying to move her. So she was furious. So they call me in to come see her. So I go down, I get a chair, I pull up beside her, and I'm just like, so who are you voting for? And I mean, that's all she needed. And so we talked about how we got there. She talked about she rode the train. She used a quarter to get on the train. She rode all the way across town to go vote. And she was perfectly happy. And it was in 2 minutes, she was on to a different subject. But as long as they argued it, she was just as tense as she could be. So yeah, I can definitely agree with that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it also makes great stories like that. Like you could just, you know, you always have that in your back pocket to be like, this one time, this lady thought she was voting. I mean, as, you know, ignorant as that sounds, it's part of it. You know, you got to laugh at it a little bit. You have, I mean, a lot, but you really have to laugh. Otherwise
absolutely.
You're not gonna get through
absolutely. it. Yeah, the only time you really need to correct them is if they're causing harm to themselves, and there's still a correct way to do that other than, you know, making them all worked up. So since this diagnosis, since you've become more familiar with it, have you done a bunch of research? Have you gotten connected? Like, what have you done to learn more about it?
Yeah, so I've been lucky enough to be a part of a nonprofit locally here in Baltimore, well, in Westminster, Maryland, but Baltimore area, called YES, which is Young Onset Dementia Education and Support. I say it all the time, and I knew I was going to mess it up tonight. But basically it's a nonprofit that's focused on the young onset. So everybody that's a part of it has been diagnosed under the age of 65. And what I found a lot when my mom was first diagnosed was that we didn't really have much support for like my age group, you know, 30-year-olds, 25-year-olds, or her age group at all either. So YES kind of steps in, and we have a young adult group that's all people my age. We have about 15 kids just in Maryland. And so I've met a lot of people locally that are going through it too. But since I've been a part of it, like I help with the social media and everything, but I've been able to do my own research as I'm looking up like Fact Friday or like certain things like that. So I've really been able to kind of learn a lot about dementia in general. And I'm also connected to a lot of great people who are on the board of YES that have given us, you know, resources that we probably would have never had without it. So I'm very lucky to have that group locally and that we're a part of it. It's been amazing.
You've kind of gotten connected, and in that, one of the most important things is, you know, just venting, having somebody knowing what you're going through and truly just being able to be empathetic and sympathetic. And there's nothing better than being in a group where people are going through the same thing as you. So one thing that I've learned about dementia, and you may correct me, I think now they're at the point where the statistics are something like 1 in 10 adults is going to have dementia, and the minorities are at a much higher risk for dementia. They're not exactly sure why. A lot of it can be socioeconomic. A lot of it can be, like we said earlier, genetic and things like that. But yeah, so minorities, the Black, Hispanic, Latinos, they're at a much higher risk of getting these diagnoses. Have you learned anything through like doing all your research that can help slow the process?
So I think what I've heard by slowing the process is basically just taking care of yourself, eating healthy, exercising, using your brain, playing brain games on your phone, like every day, just, play a couple games and get your brain working. Unfortunately, like you said, if it's genetic or it's coming at you, you're going to get it. But yeah, I mean, I think just taking care of yourself and really being aware and being healthy, I think that's one thing that is really overlooked. I mean, not to talk bad on my mom, but my mom never really lived that healthy of a lifestyle. Not saying that's the reason why she has it, but didn't really eat healthy, didn't exercise, was a smoker. So like she didn't take care of herself necessarily. So I think it's really important to be healthy and to be proactive and to make sure you're using your brain for the right reasons and really, test your brain, make sure it's working and all that stuff. So, but yeah, the minorities is a big thing. And it's also interesting that young onset, it's women are higher rate diagnosed than men.
Yeah,
so
I think
more
it's
women
like
get
double
it than
the
men.
risk, right? Like two.
Yeah.
That's pretty. That's terrifying.
Yeah, I think so.
You and I should like quiz each other every day. Just like, hey, here's the math problem. Don't do that. Exactly. I'll fail that part. Don't give me math. But anything else, I'm cool with that. Yeah, so that's pretty wild. Has that kind of lit a fire under you to do more exercise and to take better care of yourself? You're also like
maybe.
way too young.
Not yet.
You're like 20s where you're in that, you're like, man, I'm going to live my life. I think you're still super young, but yeah, absolutely. Okay. So something that they have found with dementia, like I said, I learned all this through doing therapy for so long. Your muscle, the easiest way to word it is your brain is basically a muscle. So it's like going to the gym, lifting weights for your arms. You're not going to get strong in one day, right? So they actually recommend about 30 minutes a day for brain exercise and brain activity. So anything, doing the Sudoku puzzles, like you said, the puzzles on your phone, reading, just keeping your mind engaged. And obviously smoking is not a good thing. Eating healthy is fantastic. And then if you feel like you're having any of those signs and symptoms or you're concerned about, going to your doctor, because they do have medications that can help slow the process. Now, we said earlier there's not a cure, but they do have medicines to kind of slow it a little bit. I think it works for a lot of people. Obviously, it's not the be all, to it, but yeah, absolutely. So if somebody is watching this, Audra, and they're in the same boat, but let's say they're not in Maryland, so they're not able to come to those support groups that you have, what would be your best advice for them?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely think that even though we're in Maryland, I definitely think going online and just like Googling young onset dementia support in general and just seeing what comes up, whether it's in your area or not. I mean, just because we're based in Maryland, we're still doing Zoom calls for support groups and stuff like that. So we could go all over the nation, there's a lot of technology, like you said earlier with TikTok and all these people. I mean, I have people in Canada, I have people in Australia commenting on my stuff, like connecting that way. There's so many people that I've just messaged. I'm like, here, if you ever want to talk, let me know. Like, even if it's just one person and you just feel like you want to connect with them because they understand what you're going through, then do it. Like, just be confident and be like, I want to talk to this person and ask her some questions. Just do it. I think one conversation or one text or anything like that can really help somebody get through whatever they're looking for.
Now, what about the other one was like just in general, just advice for yourself?
Yeah, so I would tell, if I was like talking back to myself like 2 years ago, I guess 4 years ago when it first happened, I mean, I would say the same thing that I probably said then, which is, take advantage of every moment that you have, because everything changes every day. And every moment that you do have with that person, you have personally for yourself, even after all of it's done. You'll always have that. You'll always be able to cherish it. I also think that there's beauty in this disease, as weird as that sounds. I've kind of learned to see my mom in a different light. As much as I miss, you know, who my mom was back in the day, I got to see her in a different light, and I got to care for her like she used to for me. And there's some things that she says and some things that she does that she probably would have never done if this never happened to her. So there's a little bit of light there. You just get to relearn who that person is, like as the same person, but as a little different, like not as your parent figure, you know? So there's some beauty in it. I mean, you see my TikToks, like there's fun in it. That's not all the time, but it's not, it's not the end of the world, even though it does seem like it a lot. It's still the same person that it was before she was diagnosed. You know, it's just, it doesn't define who she is. And that's one thing that is my goal with kind of what I want for people to think about with dementia is it doesn't define who the person is. I think the stigma is unbelievable. And, you know, people are scared of it, and they hear Alzheimer's, they hear dementia, or they hear it at the young age and they just run and they're scared of it. And it doesn't make that person any different. They're still who you love. And, you know, it's gonna be harder, but they're still the person that you love before it happens.
1,000%. Hats off to you and your family. God, I can't even, like, it just takes a village. I have several friends that have gone through things similar, and I think all the time, like, what amazing, strong people. Like, we are such strong human beings, and we don't even know it until we're put to the test with something like this. Like, so amazing. All right, I got an extra one that I always ask people. I am very much guilty for not, you know, I preach self-care, but you can ask any of my friends. I have been, a lot of people say I work too hard. Okay, so I don't practice what I preach as well as I should. But for you, what does self-care look like for Audra? Because I know this is hard. I know this weighs heavy. Although you get on here and you smile and your TikToks are fun, behind the curtain, it is a tough thing. It is hard to imagine your mom changing and not knowing what's coming in the future. So self-care, what does that look like for you?
I think self-care is honestly just spending time with the people that I love most. Like, it doesn't even matter what we're doing, whether it's my friends or my family. Like, I'm a big family person. I mean, that's how we were brought up. We have a huge family. I've had the same group of friends since we were in high school. So, I mean, just doing whatever we're doing with each other, that's like my extended family too. Like, it's just, that's the most important thing to me. It doesn't even matter what we're doing. Like, I couldn't even tell you what it is. It's just like, if we're all together and we're smiling and we're talking, even if we're talking about the nitty-gritty stuff that's sad or whatever, like, that's my self-care, is being with those people who are there for me. And I'm lucky to have those people around me.
That's so cool. Everybody's a little bit different. So for me, I love my friends, I love my family, but self-care more so looks like re-energizing. So for me, I'm super introverted, as you wouldn't guess, because I play music in front of hundreds and thousands of people. I do these interviews with people, but to self-care, I just need a moment of silence just to like reset. So self-care looks a little bit different for everybody. So I'm super excited that you talked about YES. It's YES. People can get on there. I've been looking into that since I got to know you a little bit better, and it looks so cool. So if you're going through this, like Audra said, reach out for help, message people. There's so many connections on the internet. Social media has been so cool. Like 2020, I feel like that really just skyrocketed social media.
Yep, that's when I joined TikTok. I was like, I'll never create a TikTok in my life. And 2020 came around, and I joined just to look at videos. By 2021, I posted my first TikTok.
Yeah, so now you're like TikTok
never
famous.
Thought I'd do it.
So. Who'd thunk it? It's almost like, you know, TikTok, to me, I was thinking about this before we start talking. It's almost like as therapeutic as writing in a journal every day.
Yeah, well, that's what I tell people about mine is, like, obviously there's some crazy TikToks and stuff out there, but like what I love about it is my live journal. I'll have those videos of my mom and me, you know, as long as I have them. So it's showing, and it's also showing me, like, I'm looking back on videos that I haven't looked at in years, or pictures or anything like that. Like, it's kind of given all of the family, like on Mother's Day, we all went up and looked at our cards that we got her when we were kids and stuff like that. So it kind of brings you back to like what we had before, and then you're doing like the before and now or whatever, you know, so you're like looking for this content, but then you're running across all this old stuff that you're like, wow, we haven't even done all this kind of stuff in a long time. So
that
it's
in
kind of
itself is kind of like self-care. It's kind of like your journal. You're sharing with people, and not only are you getting to write it down, you're getting feedback as well. So that's super cool. Audra, it has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. I know we're on totally different time schedules. I'm super ticked off that I didn't know you were in Baltimore. We could have met up like 2 weeks ago. Next time.
Well, next time
you come into Arkansas. Yeehaw.
I will. What is it? Go Hogs?
Go Hogs. How the heck did you know that?
Because one of my good friends is from Little Rock, so she would always watch the Hogs or whatever. And it's just like Suey or something.
Do I need to teach you how to do the hog call? Yeah, it's basically. Okay, good.
No, I won't.
I'm not super into sports, but I do love when the Hogs play. It's a super big deal in Arkansas. Everybody loves their sports here. And it's kind of like you said, just friends and family getting together. I'm really just there for the dip and chips, for being honest, just between me and you and everybody here watching and the hundreds of people that are here this later. Yeah.
Yep, that's awesome. It's always a good time to go to the games.
Audra, I want to make a deal right now that we keep in touch. I want to keep up with your mom, your journey. Here's the deal. When you do an interview with me, you're basically signing a contract that I'm now invested in your life, and I'm going to check in from now on. That's how I work. So congratulations. I'm going to annoy you from now on.
Perfect. Appreciate it. I like to
All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. So what happens, again, for those people, we've had a ton of people log in. My name is Townsend. So we do this live stream, and then here shortly we will edit it. My team will get together, put it all together, and it will become a podcast episode. So you can watch this live. This is just so people can get on, ask questions, be involved in real time. So I'm super excited that we were able to work this out. And then we put it on the podcast so more ears can hear this story and more people can share it. So Audra, I'll let you know when it goes live so you can share with your people.
Yeah, let me know. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. It's
Absolutely.
been great.
I hope you have a good
I
evening.
appreciate it.
All right, I'll see you later.
You too. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this conversation and are interested in becoming a sponsor, feel free to shoot me an email at townsendtmusic@hotmail.com or shoot me a message on any social media platform at Townsendtmusic for more information. I would love for you to become a member to help spread awareness that you're not alone. If you're looking to buy or sell, I have the perfect realty company for you. Clark & Co. Realty is located in the Benton, Bryant, Arkansas area. And they understand that buying or selling a home is more than just a transaction. It's a life-changing experience. That's why their team of highly seasoned real estate professionals is dedicated to providing exceptional, personalized services for all their clients. They truly take great pride in the relationships they build, and they always work relentlessly on the client's behalf to help them achieve their perfect real estate goals. They always have the client in mind, and I can speak firsthand when I say how reliable, trustworthy, and quick they were. When I was looking to buy my first home, they were there with me every step of the way, answering every question I could think of. They showed me a great amount of knowledge and patience through the process. It's no wonder they've won so many awards for their outstanding services and their excellent relationships with clients. So if you're looking to buy or sell, there is no better option than Clark & Co. Realty.